Hi, everyone. This is Jane Celia Hatch. I'm recording from snowy Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I am the host of the Shaman's Corner, the YouTube channel. And I am also a whistleblower journalist, a writer, a researcher, a book writer. And I'm also a psychic and a shaman. And I am here today with an extremely special guest. She is special to me. I believe she's special to the world. She's going to be, when my book is published, everyone is going to learn things they could not imagine was happening in England, in Germany. This is Elizabeth Wallace of the Netherlands. I'm going to briefly describe her background, and then I think she'll do a much better job of it. I'll first tell you how I met her. I was writing, and I am writing a book, which I thought was essentially about Princess Diana. And I was motivated to write about her and a lot of women in the West who had gone through family court, and they had been traumatized by loss of children. And that happened to me, my mother, my daughters. And so I researched, I found it was happening all around the West, and also to Princess Diana. She and her mother, Frances, went through a very complicated and traumatic and actually mind-splitting divorce and custody. And a lot of custody and family court right now is causing trauma and mind-splitting and MKUltra. So I was looking for more information about Diana, which I was doing a lot. I had gone to England, and then I came across Elizabeth Wallace on a very small Rumble channel, and she was saying the most astounding things, and I was magnetized. She was not only talking about Princess Diana, she was talking about other members of the royal family, and ultimately she was talking that she had survived MKUltra, Monarch, elite sex, mind splitting. And that's a lot of words, but she'll put it together in a better way. But she was and is recovering from MKUltra, with one of her primary handlers being sadly Josef Mengele, the angel of death, from the Nazi German so-called scientists, which was one of her so-called handlers. And yes, this all does tie in with Princess Diana. Elizabeth Wallace was a very good friend of Princess Diana and knew things about her. Even her closest confidants, such as her butler, Paul Burrow, may or may not have known, but he never publicized it. I'm not sure we're going to come out with all the details in this interview. It's astounding what Elizabeth knows about Diana that is never made public. It was shocking to me. Everything Elizabeth tells me is shocking, but revealing, and she's expanded my worldview. She's expanded my understanding of the Holocaust, because she had ties to a military man there who informed her of what was really going on. And she has a great many ties to the royal family. So I'm going to let her describe her experience and define trauma-based MKUltra mind control, which I feel like is the military's most secret weapon and most powerful weapon to try and enslave humanity. And so she was a monarch, which is a very elite MKUltra slave. Even though it's elite, she was a slave to the military and was used as a presidential monarch like Marilyn Monroe and Kathy O'Brien, but also in the military for special operations. So, hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, Jane. First of all, I feel so blessed and honored to be your guest and to be interviewed by you. Very special.
Well, it's absolutely my honor. And because I know you so well, I feel like at least we have hours and hours and hours of conversations under our belt. And it's hard for me to make it small for the interview, like bring it into a manageable amount of information, because everything is shocking. We're going to do 7 interviews. We're going to start with this one primarily about Princess Diana, but also about your background, which brings you to an understanding of Princess Diana. So I'm going to try to encapsulate it, but What is your definition of MKUltra trauma-based mind control, and how did it begin for you?
Well, MKUltra, well, I choose to come forward with that because it's, for the majority of people, a word which I see often come by. But it goes far beyond that, MKUltra. But I was full mind-controlled, undetectable slave I had in my programming, as they call it. Like also military programming. I had Monarch programming, which is also the sex slave programming. I had assassin programming. I was with, because of this programming, the basic is to traumatize me from, in my case, from when I was a baby and a toddler as many times as possible by my main programmers. And they fully designed that in a way that it would be that I would be an accurate slave and that my mind would be split in personalities. So it's a kind of what they called in the past, I think, dissociation, or maybe they still call it like that. And I had uncountable personalities in that way. And the advantage is that the one personality did not know what the other did or had to do in the programming. Fortunately, I'm whole, so I cannot be reprogrammed again. But the basics of my mind control programming is fully. So my full mind was split in personalities, and then again being split, and then again, and they can continue splitting into personalities as much as possible if the person can handle this, because that's a very important detail. Not even all children, they think they can program or can split their minds or put in this programming. Many of them don't survive because they cannot deal with it. So you have to have a specific brain, literally. Also, your brain needs to have a certain creativity part, and many other details about it, but I will not go too much to broaden into that. So that gives maybe a picture of. And by the way, my front personality, which I call, is the one who did the life in the Netherlands without totally not knowing about all this programming. I found out only from 2000, year 2000.
So I know all four of your programmers and handlers, and I think we've agreed that two of them we're not going to mention here, but I'm going to mention the other two because I think that we cleared that. One was Dick Cheney, who's well known in the United States. Strangely, he was one of the campaigners for Kamala Harris, which that's very strange. I think she wanted to trash her whole campaign. And the other one was Josef Mengele. Is it okay if I share a picture that you drew of him that I have? Do you know that one, or would you rather not?
Yeah, well, I did already show it on my social media, but it's.
You know which one I'm talking about with the maroon bandana?
Oh, that one. Yeah, if you.
If I can figure out how to do it.
That's not what I. That's not what I'm saying. And we can just cut this out of the.
Okay, so can you see this, Elizabeth?
Yes, partially. Oh yeah, now I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so you drew this. He was one of your torturers. At what age were you subject to his torture? Beginning at what age?
Already when I was wearing diapers, and I have well, I have memories of the majority of my memories with him came when I was just walking. And the first memories was that he disjointed my legs and arms. That's the basic programming of him, and the doll programming. In the doll programming, that is that, and also the legs and joints had been disjointed, and then it after a while, when bonded in bandages, actually it looked a bit like a mummy, but except my eyes could be shown, and everything was bonded, and then I was just dozed off, and to get away from the pain, that's already, by the way, a tactic to dissociate, to let the victim, in this case me, to dissociate because of the trauma of being and disjointed legs and arms and being bonded. So that was one of the first memories with him, but he had so many other hideous and literally torturous towards me. He also experimented on my heart. Yeah, it's harsh to say, but he literally killed other children in front of my eyes. He had his own pistol. He was very vain when I was in his office and in his private quarters. He had his violin hanging in the wall, hanging at the wall, and he had also his pistol with him. And then he just, and not one time, many times, just killed a child in front of my eyes, straight through the forehead. And those were when I was already, when I just could walk.
Didn't you say that at times he would kill children to punish you if you stepped out of line? So that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he designed a school for me. I mean, a school education, as he called it. He didn't call it programming or torture. No, he said it was my education. And I remember that he had, that was a nursery school which was abandoned. And they painted all the former classrooms where the children used to be in all kinds of colors. So he did the color coding. And with him, I had the basic color coding green, because he was also called Dr. Green. But next to that, I was put in these classrooms, and with all the walls in each classroom painted in a different color. And then you have to think of the rainbow colors, and also a black room and a fully white painted room. And then in each color room, I got several tortures and traumas. One was a sewing room. By the way, I did never share this before, so I hope I'm not trembling too much by mentioning it. And in the sewing room, there were other children of my age, and then you literally have to visualize. I was maybe 2.5, at the most 3 years old. Other children also at the same age, and there were approximately groups from 7 children to maybe sometimes 12, 13 children. And then I had to sew, and they were all nude. And I don't know if it fits the channel. I will keep it a bit.
No, it's
I
fine.
realize that.
Are you
And
saying Sue, SEW?
yeah, a sewing machine, a singer, Singer, and I will never forget that sewing machine. And then the children were nude, and then with the boys with their and what they have there below. I will not mention the literal. I had to sew these.
Yeah, I don't think you've told me that.
I
And
did.
if you didn't do it, I know from your testimony and other survivors, you would have been killed, or you wouldn't have been killed, but the children would have been killed if you refused to do it.
Yeah, and always choosing a bad choice. So whatever I choose, it was still not good enough. And I always had to have the feeling that I would save children. And this was later on being used when I was a commander of Delta teams. Which actually in my front life and still now also helped me survive, because I will always try to save everyone, which can also be a trap.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's not always handy to have that capacity, but it's true. Yeah, I felt like I got the choice to, if you don't listen to us now, like also when Mengele was present, then we kill them all. And
And
that's
they would too, because they were psychopaths and they have no emotion,
no.
like empathy.
And and
So I'm going to
demonized.
read. At what age did you draw? This is a memory of him. At what age did you draw this?
Well, this was when I had flashbacks. So I think this was from 2010. I started to get really the heavy flashbacks,
Okay.
and then as a means of to heal and to get myself out of the flashbacks, then I started drawing, and I felt like I need to catch this. what I see, how detailed
Oh,
I saw,
yeah. It's,
and it was also healing.
yeah.
So, and you see on the drawing his one hand in his underneath his jacket, which was always grayish. It was not never white. It was always grayish, and that is a Freemason sign. What I learned only
Oh,
later
right.
on, because I never read or checked Freemasonry or read about it really, because I always knew when I started to uncover and recover from these memories and recall of these memories that I always wanted to stay pure in a way and recall and not being polluted by memories of others. So and always that bandana, and he loved that. Yeah, what is it? Wine red? That colored bandana is it like that. So yeah, and a smile. I also try to capture and that space in between his four teeth,
Oh, yeah.
very significant.
So I'm going to read in case the viewers can't read it. She writes, this is our Uncle Joseph. That's common that victims of torture in MKUltra are made to feel like people are family. He had a
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
plastic
Mm.
surgery just like Arvadi, so just like Hitler. He wore A.M. Lebstein, his grayish lab coat, and luxurious London polo shirts. The plastic surgery was overall to make him look younger. He sometimes had a small mustache and loved to wear wine-colored neck bandana. At the time, his eyes got reptilian slits, which is not surprising. If his
Mm.
lab coat wasn't ironed properly, he ordered the one who ironed it to be beat to death or sometimes hacked in right in front of my eyes. Okay, so I just want to explain to the audience a lot of elite families, and Elizabeth is from a very elite family in America and in Europe and all over the world. They sacrifice their own children to these programs. And they start them as babies, which often they start them as babies because the more times they can split the brain through trauma and torture, the more personalities they create, and the more personalities can be programmed for all kinds of military operations done in secret. They work for free. They're slaves, and they can be programmed specifically for United States presidents and whatever personalities they like. They sometimes program mini Barbies, I Dream of Jeannie, all kinds of programming for the sex slaves, and for so the presidents can activate them when they're older, not as babies, possibly. I don't know, but people, who don't understand MKUltra, they say, if this started when she was a baby and went through her teenage years, why is she not insane? Like the millions and millions of other children that have gone through MKUltra, it's because children have a unique ability to split their brain, especially the creative psychic types like us. We can split our brains, and each part will hold that memory so that the essence doesn't have to hold it. So that's, I think Mengele was the one that discovered, adults go insane under this kind of torture. So they didn't want to do it to adults anymore. So that's why they started this massive worldwide kidnapping and stealing, and elite families actually, giving their children over to this is because children can be brain split and then, utilized by the deep state for whatever they want, for money, profit, war, whatever they want to use you for. So, and I've heard this over and over again from other survivors, Kathy O'Brien, Chantel Frey,
And
Arizona
if I
Wild.
if I if I if I can add something, the whole mind control, Mengele did not invent it. It was the Egyptians already knew, because
Yeah.
Egyptian culture, the real history of Egyptian culture has also been totally twisted and turned, but they already there knew how to split minds and to torture children. So actually there already, Mengele was very inspired by that.
I actually heard that from a Montauk survivor of the Montauk Project here at Camp Hero in Long Island, New York. Apparently,
Hmm.
about 3 million children were abducted by the U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, and Nazis, and he was brought there when he was a child. And he also just recently said in an interview that it was Egyptian in orientation. But I guess I could say the Nazis developed it and perfected it in part through the Holocaust, experimenting on Jews
Mm.
and gypsies and dwarves. They perfected MKUltra mind control. Would that be correct?
Yeah, and also he was Mengele, but because I knew him, he was obsessed by twins.
Mm.
Also the twinning, so that he actually wanted to implant that the soul could be retrieved and then could be copied, literally like kind of a twin
Mm-hmm.
set, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, he saw the advantages of that.
Well, I think they began to utilize that. They were putting fragments and soul pieces into clones. Haven't they perfected that by putting those soul fragments into clones? And then they
Yeah, that's the attempts. Many of them also did not succeed, but yeah, it is. He was a very inspirator for, if that's the right word, for yeah, for
yeah.
getting more evolved.
So what year was this, or the years, and was did this take place in Germany or South America or England? Where did you primarily see Mengele or experience him, or do you know?
I I also met him in Argentina. In I think I recall the name El Duce. Somewhere in Mexico. I don't know. I'm very bad with remembering names because
Well,
I don't
yeah,
look up anything. But also Nevada desert, the US, uh, there overall.
and it was dislocating your bones, stopping your heart. You also experienced near drownings,
Near
freezing,
drawings, burial,
buried
yeah, buried
alive.
alive, buried alive, and many options. And also for him it was amazing to add tortures. You maybe know the Tantalus. Tantalus. Well, there is a certain, is it a legend, but that then someone is being literally tortured by being bonded, and that then in front of this bonded slave,
Mm-hmm.
then there is put a glass of water and a fruit, and then he got hungry and thirsty, and then he was not capable of grabbing the when he got, of course, thirsty after a while. And I was that was in a film set in a Hollywood scene, and there I was buried in the sand until my neck height, and then there was a hot lamp above me, which I think was a studio lamp, and that had to act as a sun. And then I was dried out. And of course, because of the heat, I got thirsty and I was there for at least 24 hours. And then there was put in front of me a glass of water and some fruit. And my favorite fruit which was, still is, pineapple. And then I tried to reach it and I couldn't grab it. So that's one of his ways of torturing me, and also drowning. I was put in aquaria. I was also in the doll programming, also put in a box, which would then that then other people who would then feel aroused by seeing me dressed as a doll. By the way, he did also torture me and confuse me by real children killing real children, and
Yeah,
then
I've heard that too.
set them up as dolls in a box, and I had to watch them. And I still recall that there was one beautiful girl. I still get goosebumps. She was a Scottish girl, and she had even a Scottish kilt with the green black Scottish square, the checkered skirt, and then in a box. And then I was forced to watch that girl, and I was not allowed to look away or to show
Yeah.
emotions about. And that was not a girl who was put to rest in a kind of frozen state. No, she was dead. So, and I saw him also, stuffed animals. I've seen him do this with children.
Yeah. I There's
and
no
he and
limit
he
to
showed
what these
me
people
he
will
showed
do.
me yeah, and he showed me the ins and outs of the body. I also never shared that to anyone, that I was actually shown where the organs were, Well, that was of course handy later on with being assassin and being put in that programming as Black Widow. Yeah, it's very bizarre, and I know it might sound untrue, but it's needed that these details are being talked
Mm.
about, and it is true.
Well, I know it's true because I've heard multiple testimonies now that, they're not exact, but they're all very similar. It's very clear to me. Hundreds, thousands, potentially millions, not necessarily the Monarch, but they've gone through MK Ultra mind control, and that a large portion of Hollywood stars or MK Ultra politicians have been MK Ultra. All of the leaders, basically many of the leaders of the entire planet, have gone through MK Ultra so that they can be mind controlled by the deep state, the 13 families, the Vatican, the leaders above the leaders that lead from the unseen. And I
Mhm.
also know that, in case there was always a medical team, which is kind of creepy, that medical doctors would, watch you being tortured, but they were there to revive you in case they killed you or almost killed you.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah, because I was too important. They didn't wanna, yeah, they didn't wanna have me dead. So that's true. Yeah, there was always the most accurate medical help, and a stretcher, all these devices. And I was also, yeah, it sounds so bizarre, but I had many deaths. I know what it's like to be after death. I know what it's like to be in heaven. I know what it's like to the passage from dying to the dying process. And yeah, they had me resuscitate, yeah, with these defibrillators.
And like other survivors who actually survived, you must have had a very, very strong connection to God or your spirit guides. Did you have a lot
Mhm.
of spiritual experiences that helped you get through these dark, evil times?
There was an archangel who always stood by me, and when it was too intense, or for example the near death experiences, because even experiencing one with the force and because of the heavy energy of what the handlers did or the programmers did, that is, I wish it to no one, not even and I don't have enemies, but don't wish anyone an experience like that. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was your question?
I think
Sorry,
I I
it's
think I did too. Yeah.
well, yeah,
That's okay. I wanted to
yeah.
ask you when they're never really done with you, but when they were done with the primary amount of programming, and that went from toddlerhood, they started just to traffic you, to sex traffic you. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Not only that, I was also already taking part when I was little. I know it sounds bizarre, but from already 5, 6 years old, I have memories that I was a commander of Delta Team, and I was also educated, as Mengele that would say, to also be active in my military programming. So not only a sexual slave, and also that I was trafficked through countries, and also to test out how accurate I could be, and also to experiment probably how they could easily. For example, I was also used to smuggle things out of the country, and I still recall that I then wore a very bright orange backpack, when I was very little, when I was 6 years old, for example, and then I crossed the borders with a fake mum, and this mother had to act as if she was my mother, and then they tried out if I could, if my personality would hold, and if we would get through that airport with the delivery to for example
Yeah.
South America.
I've heard of other MK Ultra Monarch uh slaves. I hate to use that word, but you were a slave. It was against your will.
Mm,
Also,
yeah.
being an assassins as young at 5 or 6, because they get the pedophile global leaders or military, who's ever a pedophile, and they attract them with the 5-year-old girl, and get them in bed, and then she kills them. You know, she can kill. You've been trained as an
It's very
assassin.
innocent, and
Yeah,
I waited with coming forward that I had an assassin programming, because I initially never wanted to come out, because I'm scared of that people will think like, yeah, but maybe you're still a killer, you know. And I was forced to do this. It
yeah.
was my programming. So, and I still feel that when I mention it now, that people think that I'm a bad person, and the survivor's guilt, and that I did this. It will haunt me forever, what I was forced to do.
You can't be
Because
held
from within
accountable.
I was,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, from within I was screaming. So there was always the split up is so done. I had to have and keep a part which was in contact with the consciousness. And now I know what we were talking about earlier. It was that I had an archangel who always kept me close to my consciousness, and he kept me safe. He took care of it next to my creativity. I know it's also my own strength, and who I am as being, that I could survive. But I knew from within what I did was bad. But first of all, the programmers often told me, "You do this for your country." I
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
when I hear the tune of the U.S. A folk tune. I forget now the name of it. I apologize. The national anthem, and then I still want to salute to the flag. So, and I feel very, and now later on in life, when I started to recall the memories, I only started to realize, oh, this is why I love America next to Great Britain. More actually than the Netherlands. I love the Netherlands. I love many places in the world, but I always felt, and when I saw a soldier, or when I saw an American movie with soldiers in it, or with military or black ops, then I always was like, ah, so that's still in me, that wanting to salute. And but I lost again my train of thought. But for
Well,
me, it was important to say that I always knew from within, I don't want to do this. It's the programming who let me did it. And by the way, as a small child, I was educated first by stabbing, for example, animals.
I know. I've heard that a lot. They start with children by getting them to kill animals, and then they move them on. I've heard that over and over and over again by
Mm,
children who've been
yeah.
abducted by the military and forced into MKUltra. Your other handler, and just for the audience, MKUltra victims have usually 2 to 3 or sometimes 4 handlers and programmers. And another one that we're going to
Mm.
speak of today briefly is Dick Cheney, and he was a programmer or a handler of yours.
Both, but he was specifically connected to the military and later on the presidents where I was with, or a lot of presidents. I don't want to
So,
go into detail in that, but yeah, he was my white rabbit. I had to call him often White Rabbit, because you know the Alice in Wonderland can be easily put, is very handy for programming. Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit hole, the mushrooms you eat when you can get
mhm.
bigger and smaller. It's the fantasy world. It's the checkered. There's so many symbolism. If you only watch that animation or the movies about, that's why it's a beloved theme of movies. It's very extremely used in my programming, specifically by him. And I still am a bit cautious in mentioning his name too much, because
Yeah, I know.
I hope you understand.
I totally
It's for me
understand.
not. I don't wanna. For me, it's so important that it's for me not about the names, but it is about that the world
Yeah.
changes. And now
Because this is
for
still
me,
happening. This is still happening all over the world. It hasn't slowed
it's still
down.
happening. I see it. What happens if I see television shows? I see the whole world to start to get a uniform in uniformity, not only in television shows, but just in here in the Netherlands. It's not allowed to say anything at
Yeah, it's
all,
becoming
or police.
propaganda.
You have to get the police at your doors at your door. I cannot even say, and that's really the truth. I cannot say, come on, dear people, let's all stand up peacefully, because I am for peaceful action.
I know.
Never ever revenge.
I
No,
know.
in not any way.
You're so
And then I
unique.
cannot even say that, because I have to say that I think I am right to say that, and it's that far. This is so. In this case, I get proven it is still happening.
Yeah, well,
This is
I
not.
know that the Montauk experiment, where the military kidnapped 3 million children, hasn't stopped. They've just changed locations. They're now in New
Yeah,
Orleans. They were
yeah,
decades in Camp
yeah,
Hero in
yeah. And
upstate.
Tavistock Institute, I know many
Yeah,
victims
I mean it's all over the
afraid
world.
are
It's all,
afraid to talk about it, but they're still active.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to so Mengele kind of he didn't necessarily turn you over to Cheney. They worked simultaneously to program you and to manage you and to traffic you.
Yeah, and
So,
in this case, I must say it might be that also what I seem to learn later on in years, that the majority of MK or full mind controlled ones are split in two, and I was split in four. So I had four core splits, and
wow.
all programmer were, and one was a female programmer, and then they all four, and that's already what I never heard of anyone else. Maybe someone will come forward but I honestly don't know anyone else, and that the majority of the there is actually mainly a main programmer who designs the basic split and how they want to split the core and in sections. So it's literally written down in a little booklet. And I had four who created
You had
and
four cores, but you probably how many personalities did they create out of those four cores through trauma? Did you say
what I came across in the recovery and in the unraveling of my inner systems, at least over 1 million.
oh, okay. Yeah, I had 2,200 down in my book. I better get that changed. My rough
So
draft.
I don't know where you got that from.
I don't either. Um, but so each one of those personalities, it can be used by the military, the royal family, the Vatican, whoever has invested money in the Nazis, and MKUltra gets a piece of the pie. And every time she was trafficked to only the elite, she was not allowed on Epstein Island, because I'll say here now, Elizabeth is royal blood. We're not going to say yet who is her mother, but she is a royal bloodline, and that is part of the elite sex slaves. Believe it or not, we always thought the elite lived such protected lives, but no, they are actually trafficking their own children. But so she knows many presidents, she knows many military leaders. You were also trafficked to World Economic Forum, where I think one of your personality skill was photographic memory, and you recorded. Um,
Yeah, a
was it
lot more. Yeah.
Schwab? I don't know. We can go into detail, but I think you mentally recorded all your conversations with him. Is that correct? Or
Well, as you know, I don't want to
okay,
throw out too many names. So I want to honor that also for my own safety. You know,
right.
it's for
So,
me
but we
very
can
serious
say
when I say names.
that was
But
one of your skills was to record, and they could send you to leaders around the planet to record in your mind.
Yeah, I was with specifically in the military with generals. I always was witness when the whole with the COVID was. I don't know if I can mention it, but when that when that was evolved and put in the world, I recorded many conversations
So
around the world.
whenever, wow, yeah, you know a lot.
Literally like a tape recorder, so that it was also not being stored in a device,
Yeah.
because full mind controls like I was, or like me, what should I say in the grammar? I don't know now. Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know what
Yeah, that
yeah.
yeah, and that it was safer to store it in a full mind control, which was more trustable than a device or by someone they maybe not, because that's a very important thing in why they still use full mind controlled ones, because I was in my front life, I'm sure still people who will start to get to know me, maybe accidentally later on. I don't know how it will go in life, and that they will still be surprised, like, huh? But she was so introvert. She was so shy. But
Yeah.
that's the power of it. I have
Yes.
a mediocre face. I'm not saying that I'm not proud of how I look. I'm fully proud of who I am as a woman, as who I am, and what I uncovered and what I did. But yeah, it's I have a certain type of face which also could easily change into a male's face or in a boy when I was younger. I had an innocent appearance, and that is the trick,
Hmm.
that they could guard it, and with so many personalities, of course. But yeah, it's a
Well,
very very difficult system to explain.
yeah,
Uh,
especially, I mean, the book will explain it all, but
yeah,
we're gonna touch on it on where I think we're gonna
yeah.
have 7 interviews. One of those interviews will be she has had conversations with 10 American presidents, and we'll go into that in one of the upcoming, but that's a whole different story. We'll do it in an upcoming video as much as you're willing to tell for your own safety. And I
Mm.
know that you have the best interests of America at heart. So I can't get you to spill dirt. It's just impossible. You always you're such a you just want the best for these, even some of these men that have abused you. You don't want to spill the beans on them, but we will get into some of what you observed and what you saw. Who was your favorite and who was your least favorite, but not today because
Well, if you're interested in the why, I can explain the why, but maybe in a later interview, or I
okay,
don't know
yeah,
what is your feeling, because I have, and that is maybe what I came across. Maybe it is good to express, like, I was never about throwing out names,
I
and you
know,
know me, you know
I
that.
know. I have to dig
I
them.
guard mentioning names.
I know.
There's a reason for it. I came from programming. I was forced in my programming to even kill others in the name of even God, in the name of helping America. That was overall the case. I was working for the good. But there's a whole thought behind it. Like, if it is about, for me, not about revenge for getting them back by mentioning names, it's for me, how are people developing? Are people who were former abusers now maybe working for the good or deprogramming themselves? Because I've met friends also in Hollywood, in the music scene, who were part of also MKUltra, or were also misled and even blackmailed with programmed ones like me in the Black Widow programming to seduce and then being recorded and then blackmailed.
Right.
So there are so many variations in that. And I truly want to give everyone the chance to prove in behavior. I feel actions prove the spirit. You know what I mean? Is that a saying? What everyone can. I
Actions
now
speak
cannot
louder
recall
than
the right
words.
expression, but
Yeah, you want to
yeah, the
observe these
actions and
people
what
and
someone radiates.
yeah,
Yeah, what someone radiates. And if I see, it is every for me is everything is possible, and I feel by throwing out names, that is not me. It was
yeah,
never
I
me.
know.
Everyone who knows me in the deprogramming knows that, also from my live streams. I never wanted to throw out names. And Mengele, I'm coming forward with that because he's already many years gone, and he was pure evil. And I got also confirmed by others. So I choose for that, but that already feels a bit, yeah, well,
Yeah, and
maybe.
what a lot of people don't know is our president, some of our presidents are MK Ultra, and they've done some of the evil things they've done because they were also forced to do things like you were
Yeah,
against their will. And that you're so heart centered. That's what you perceive. You understand that they are under, a lot of them are under mind control themselves.
exactly. I remember one president wore a cowboy hat. Well, maybe now people know already who I'm talking about. But he had a personality who was sincere. He was kind. He was.
Hmm.
Into chess. I played chess with him. He was into alien research. I had incredible conversations about him, about cowboys and Indian Native American movies. And the next thing on Bohemian Grove, he used my mouth as an ashtray. But it was another personality. Maybe in his soul, on being level, this is why I come back to why I don't throw out names. Maybe on being level, he was hoping for one day that someone would come forward from, as a full mind control slave, who would come forward and see through to the being level, that it's about love, about what's truly the being level's
Yeah, and that is your
goal.
goal, and that is my goal is the upliftment
Mhm.
of humanity and the
Exactly.
freedom for all beings, including
Yeah.
especially children. So
Mhm.
we weigh heavily on what is this going to lead to the betterment, this information, or is it just going to add to more negativity? So that's
Exactly.
how you
And I,
operate.
yeah, exactly. And I was always like that. And it's
I know,
not
me
that it's
too.
like gossiping, but it's, for me, it feels like that. It's really, really, really honest. Yeah, it's maybe
My cat out before
stupid to say.
before he pulls down my computer. I hear you. There, that's done. Sorry. I guess I could have stopped and started the video. So anyway, now when you went on these, let's say, you were sex trafficked to a president, who someone was paid, and they were paid a lot of money, and they were either paid with money, bribery. You could probably stop and start wars, titles, but you never received a cent. But somebody, you were the $1 billion baby. Somebody got millions of dollars or some sort of profit from the United States government when you were trafficked from, let's say, England. Is that correct? Somebody was paid with something.
Well, not only England, there was also payment in things because my heritage, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times because of my heritage and where I origin from, I have two hidden bloodlines, which they call it bloodlines. I hate the word bloodline,
Yeah.
but that they wanted to have children from me, so of my eggs. So that was also the fertility was also an important part of the deal, and not only money, but a lot of it was the plans of different groups in the world, because I
Yeah.
recorded all this stuff and the military black ops. And so it's very broad, and it's actually too big, I think, to
I know
explain.
it's huge. And I know that like politicians are bribed with sex with children to pass laws, to stop laws. Judges are bribed with child sex slaves, if for them to
Yeah, and
make
with
laws. And
come
so,
exactly,
yeah.
and next to blackmail. For example, I met there was such a beautiful man and very intelligent, I loved him dearly. But he meanwhile did programming on me and tried to do experiments because I was put in psyops, and that was in Russia,
Mm.
in a former military and underground. And he was a scientist, and he was a gentle, kind man, and his name was Sasha. He doesn't live any longer, but he was so kind, and he was threatened. And he showed me a patch underneath his collarbone, which would have a certain poison. If he would release any information or would escape from the underground,
Yeah.
that his family also would be punished, but that he would be killed by just getting an injection, or that something could be, that thing underneath his collarbone would be
Release.
um, activated. And one time I was lying on the surgical table to get prepared for another experiment, and they experimented a lot on my heart for the God codes. They wanted to find out the God codes, and I have a very strong heart. And then he asked me, like, he whispered to me, like, "Will do you want to give me?" He held a flower, a wildflower he found in where he lived underground, and he soiled it, and he gave it water, and he asked me to bring it to the surface, that at least something of him, what he nourished and gave water to, that it would be up in the daylight. And I still get goosebumps. I still feel him. And this is why I do this, for spirits like him who worked for the deep state. It couldn't get out. And this is still a touching memory of mine.
Yeah, I mean, one of the worst cases of bribery I've ever heard in my life was on Bernie Sanders, and I'm not going to go into it now, but these politicians have death sentences waiting for them, for their family, or they film them, they've drugged them and filmed them with children. So that's how our political
Mhm.
system is operating via the bribery with using children who are under mind control. But I'm going to speed along because we did talk. We're going to talk about Princess Diana, and
Yeah,
so
we didn't even
yeah.
touch upon that.
Well, I wanted to introduce you a bit. It's so huge. We've only touched on your background, and now
Mm,
I want to say now that Elizabeth was able to escape the program. There was very well-known Hollywood stars who helped her. I don't know if you want me to mention them now or we can wait. There was a couple of very high-profile people that helped her escape MKUltra from Hollywood. One is incredibly famous musician, and
mhm.
you found a safe home and a friend that took you in, and she deprogrammed for 10 years, and so that's where we are now. Now there was someone else that tried to help her escape, which was Princess Diana. So I'm going to share some pictures of her, and not that anybody doesn't know what she looks like. Um, so let's see. How long have you been recording? Maybe an hour. So Elizabeth was very close friends with Princess Diana. Um, how she was friends, I think we can touch on, but when did you first meet Princess Diana? Do you remember?
Well, I remember that I was 13, at the most 14 years old, and that was in, yeah, in the Vatican where rituals were happening.
Okay.
Um,
That might give you a
that
little bit of an idea of what was
mhm.
really going on for Princess Diana behind the scenes. But
And I know it's hard to imagine that
yeah, it's very hard for us to
that
imagine. But
this happened to a royalty like her, but yeah, that also needs to be finally, that no matter what the heritage is, royalty, president, what level society, I come back to, it's about what the action and what you radiate.
yes,
And
they want your essence. So
mm,
I know you saw Diana at the World Economic Forum. I know you saw her at the Vatican. And I know that, so I guess I'm going to come out here and tell you what we're intimating. And I don't think I've said this before. And this is known by Elizabeth and several other MK Ultra mind control monarchs who also saw Diana in the program. But here it is. Princess Diana was also sex trafficked by the royal family. She was used as a monarch. She was trafficked to the elite. And I think you told me once, Elizabeth, that she was mainly trafficked to high ranking military in Europe. Is that correct?
I've seen her accompany, yeah, on what I call it kind of private parties, but that is my way of describing private gatherings of where
Yeah.
also a lot of the military was, and there I met her often. Yeah,
Well,
that she that
that's how they got things rolling, right? They would have the parties and then they would be coupled off with whoever you're being trafficked to.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, the Monarch programming is not only sexual slave, but I had the task to also record what, for example, I was a kind of, you can say, spy as well, and that's
I
also
know.
often with Monarch slaves. And the typical thing of Monarch slave and Diana, this is also her name. Diana was also because of the goddess Diana. So she was symbolizing that specifically. So there are many levels of MKUltra and Monarch programming, and she had the Monarch programming to create, yeah, the image of Diana, or also the goddess Diana and Osiris.
So she would be trafficked to men that, or whoever that desired that essence of the goddess. She was the goddess. She was innocence and she was the goddess. And that's what they used, was that aspect of her.
Yeah, and this is why she also had to die.
That's another whole story.
It's
let's get into that in her death in maybe
many, yeah,
the
yeah,
last
many
video.
monarch, yeah, because many monarch, specifically the monarch programming, it's like how do they call that? It's like you have a kind of every mind control slave has a kind of years to live accordingly to the programmers. So the design is so being created that the majority of them have to be gone between 25th or 29th of year of their lives, approximately. And then they are what they call being thrown off the train, of the freedom train. And yeah, so that is a very important detail of why many monarchs have suicidal layers which are being triggered or being killed. So they are on forehand already being programmed, even, or being scheduled. Yeah, I know it sounds harsh, to die at certain dates and years. Also for the symbolism in the dates and for the rituals, the ritualistic part of it, the blueprint.
So if you are hearing this or you see this, you'll have a deeper understanding of why Princess Diana was so troubled. It was beyond her relationship with Prince Charles. It was beyond the way the royal family demeaned her in public and beyond the trauma of the custody battle. And she was MK Ultra. Again, a lot of people, the courts are part of MK Ultra, and they take children from the more loving parent and put them with the one that's on the side of MK Ultra. So her many suicide attempts, you know, it was always like she wanted to tell us something that she couldn't. And now I think I know why. I mean, I know what it is, that she was being used by the royal family for profit. She was just a body that they were going to process and use and then ritualistically dispose of. So if this doesn't make you angry, I don't know what will. But so I'm going to show one of the pictures you drew of one of your conversation when you were visiting Diana. So you became friends through the Monarch MK Ultra uh, world, where you both were at World Economic Forum, you were both at the Vatican, and you were not able to talk to each other because monarchs are highly guarded by the men in black. They're not allowed to talk, they're
Mm.
not allowed to associate. So you were be in the same room, but you would not be able to talk. So you had a way of communicating. You want to describe that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I was a bit distracted because I see the light flickering. Or is that
Yeah.
okay with how
Yeah,
it's looking like?
that's
Yeah,
fine.
so I apologize. So your question was, I apologize.
You and Princess Diana were both high level monarch. And so
Mm,
wherever you went, you had bodyguards, you had the men in black, and you were not allowed to speak to anyone. You were not allowed to talk. Even though
mhm.
two were in a room, let's say before you went into the Vatican or before you went to meet with someone in the World Economic Forum, you'd be in the same room and you couldn't talk, but you
Mm.
this spiritual connection. How did you found a way to communicate? How you want to explain that?
Well, we both knew sign language. By the way, that is stored ASL. The American Sign Language is stored in my system, in my programming, and with hers as well. And we could talk with our eyes. Specifically, also we had our kind of gesture, or like our pinky trust. So then I showed her while I thought my guards would not watch. And I was then sitting, for example, in a kind of waiting room. There was one example in Swiss when there was a gathering of the WEF. And then I was there sitting with her in a small room waiting for us both to get to the appointed high official. And then I showed her my pinky like this, like, and then we had sign language with also our eyes or winking. And yeah, it was just immediately when we met, even in the rituals, we felt connected. We felt friends, and we even managed to. She happened to be capable of organizing that I could even meet her a couple of times in her private quarters at home. And I only realize how special that was. I
Yeah.
did not realize that at the time, but it was incredible special to us sitting on the couch and so relaxed for the bit of time we had to just, yeah, that piano. I know that piano,
Yeah.
which came
So
by. Oh,
Elizabeth is talking about Princess Diana's private quarters after she was divorced. The boys were grown at Kensington Palace, correct? Her
mm,
quarters, that's where she was able
yeah,
to bring you. You were both still in the program, the MKUltra
yeah,
program. You were
yeah.
13, so she was 19, 20, 21. Well, she was divorced by then, right?
Um,
You
well, I'm not good in years, and I when I met her, then I was a bit older. When I
okay, yeah.
so then she was, I think she was already divorced. But that's the hard thing with programming. The years can I cannot say exactly, but
I think I have it written down. So there's the fireplace, and I think this is the
mm,
room you met her in at Kensington Palace. I'm also going to show a picture that you drew. I don't want to close the video, which I could do.
I would not
Let's
do
get
that. No.
rid of this guy for sure, and I see if I can bring up that drawing that I have.
Yeah, and I must say that I start to get a bit tired. So
Yeah, this will be the last. This is it. If this is it, I hope it is. I keep trying. Okay, this will be it, Elizabeth. I know that this is very hard to talk about and very trying, but this is a drawing that Elizabeth did of her visit to Kensington Palace. This is Princess Diana, and that's Elizabeth. And so, do you want to describe what you might have been talking about? You say, "I love you," "I miss you." Um,
well, I think one specific detail, it's better to keep that for in the book, I think, and also I don't
oh,
want to
right,
express
yeah.
that so publicly about what she shared with me in private. But
Mhm.
for example, she showed me designs. I cannot see the picture, by the way,
Oh, really?
so I
Um,
see only.
huh. It's the one that you drew of her and you on the couch at Kensington
Yeah,
Palace.
exactly, exactly. But maybe you also want to rather put it in the book or not, the drawing,
Yes, I
or
do. I
it's
do.
what you want, but you have my
All
permission.
right, I'm gonna take it down now, but it's your feelings about her. I think you've written around it. You're one of a kind, peace on earth. Everything
Yeah,
you loved about her is written around here.
yeah,
And
and for the children, so I can describe it like she wanted to actually to study for home design. I think she even did a course for inner design, so house interior design. And she showed me pictures and fashion design. She showed me some favorite dresses she wanted to design. Yeah, she loved designing her wallpaper there, um, and also that, yeah, we were actually so relieved to finally talk to each other that we were almost like
yeah, giddy.
teenagers. I was already, yeah. So it was also our programming that made us just think like, okay, we can now relax as friends, and then just in a bubble of giggliness, but also serious subjects.
Yeah, and we can't possibly go into it all now. But
Mm,
and I know it's getting time to wind up. And I know one of the last things she said to you was, "I know you can survive," and somehow
yeah,
you did. you did
Mm,
survive. And what was the
yeah.
difference, do you think? Why didn't she survive? I think we know.
Well, I am someone who always is in contact with being level, and for maybe some of the people who watch this or listen to this, it's a term which is not so known, but it's kind of a godly mission or a mission for life as being, as soul, and she just knew that she would not be strong enough to survive. So also you can maybe translate it to that then in the personality that she was not capable of doing this or of really, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it is the soul within who has a certain
Mm-hmm.
contract for life, and she just knew she would die young.
How
And
would you?
it's hard to explain it in a few words
Yeah.
how that works. It's a
We
kind of
can
strength.
end with, how would you describe her essence, her soul?
um, what we had in common, and this is why we just loved each other as friends, was the
Mm,
children's souls, the pain. We knew with even with our programming withholding us from recalling everything, we wanted to save the children.
yeah.
We wanted to have not one children being harmed, not where, it doesn't matter where, it still counts for me, but for all beings, for every single person, not only the children. Everyone needs to have a roof over his or her head, warmth, clothings, nourishment, just a balanced life. And but the children, when we saw, for example, the hunger in Africa, and she went to Poland, and I was also in Poland and met their children in how you say that, orphanages, and they were already happy with a simple toy. And we had that in common. Like I danced on a square with Polish children, orphans, and we shared the same thing. We were so, yeah, joyful when we could make children happy.
So what
And she
we
wanted to
saw,
save the children.
of her was the real her, compassionate, loving. What we saw, the public, was what you saw. She was a very compassionate, loving, caring person.
She was like that, but she was also, and she knew that she felt. Yeah, how can I explain? She was, if I can say the word naive, but I
Yeah.
mean that in the best way, and that
Vulnerable.
is why she did not survive.
I get that.
And I think I survived not only because of who I am, who I know I am, but because I had that military training as well. I'm always alert. I'm always um, on guard, always. And she was, but that was also so heartwarming. She was so totally straight from a heart, from her heart. Maybe that's a good description.
Heart centered.
Hmm.
All right. Well, this has been longer than I wanted for you. I know this is a really hard subject, and you've
Yeah,
been,
all subjects were tough, but
I
yeah,
know
that's
all
always.
subjects. So thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for more of your time. And I love the peach colored room you're in. It suits you. Also
Thank
reminds
you.
me of colors Diana would like. I think she liked peach and yellow and those colors she talked about. So we'll close up, and maybe I hope I upload this tonight or in the morning. Probably tonight, because gosh, it's only 8:30 in the morning here. I should have time. And
For me, it's already here a bit dark,
yeah, okay.
getting dark,
And
but it's a grayish day.
I know I will talk to you soon, probably very soon, because we touch base almost every day.
Hmm.
And we'll do another interview whenever you're ready, a week or two. How's that sound?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
that sounds great. And thank you again
Thank
for
you.
doing this interview. Very special. And
I'm
yeah,
telling you, it's much different when we're not on screen. There was a lot of laughing and fooling around, and we have we let loose quite a bit, but we're trying to behave. So I think we did, Elizabeth. I think we behaved for this public
yeah,
interview.
we did well.
Okay.
We did. I think we did well.
All right. Thank you so much. And I will sending you lots of love and thank you.
Yeah, thank you too, Jane.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.